Keeping it under 2 hours is always the goal.
Folks, get ready for the shortest Ball episode in history. 1 hour and 59 minutes and 59 seconds is happening right now. We're going to hop straight into our awards podcast for the year, and we're going to do it a little bit differently this year. We're going to lead with our long shots. Mm-hmm. So people that are outside of the top 10 in odds, and I don't encourage that you bet on these. Yeah. Sam obviously does. Sam is a huge proponent of sports gambling and betting in general. Mm-hmm. We don't have a sponsor for gambling this year. So Sam is just personally been really pushing for this episode to happen because we know that he's the number one supporter of every sports book in the country.
I like erosion of wealth on a personal level to go to companies that were founded in like the last 6 years by the guys that did a lot of cocaine on your college floor. Like, we should open a sports book, man. We could really get involved here if we just get in there and we just make the things. Those guys need their money. They have ideas. They're the innovators. They're the job creators. Exactly. What are you gonna? You're watching listening to a podcast. What are you gonna do with it? Start a family? Grow up. Exactly. That's set sail. You're listening to basketball podcasts. Let's
While you're trying to build a life, we're focusing on what's most important: parlays, awards bets, long shots, things that have almost no chance of winning you money, but are fun to talk about in general. Yes. And that's why we're gonna do the Long Shots podcast for the awards this year. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify, we have the top 10 up right now, and I'll just run down that right now. These will people that we will not be picking from for this, since they are not long shots. They are the favorites to win the award. Yes. We have Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Jason Tatum, Victor Wembanyama, and Ja Morant. They're the top 10, so they're disqualified from this. So where we can start to choose from is 11 down. So if you look at this right now, we have Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Trae Young, Tyrese Haliburton, Anthony Davis as the next 5. Now, I need to make a pitch up top here for, in my opinion, the best value of probably anything that we'll discuss today in general, and make a pitch. Of these 5 guys that I just mentioned, I think Tyrese Haliburton at 10,000 odds is obviously the best value that you could possibly make in pretty much anything we're going to discuss today, and hear my pitch for it. Okay. So last year when Haliburton was on the court for the Pacers, even after his injury, they won his minutes by a decent amount. Over the course of the season, he obviously had his breakout year last year. He's going into year 5. He's going into his age 24, 25 season, so he's starting to enter his prime. The Pacers are probably going to be a little, I don't have them as a top 3 or 4 team next year, just because I still think that their defense is going to be so lacking behind their offense that it's going to be hard for me to see them as a legit top 3 seed. But if they do exceed my expectations and they make that leap and they have the number 1 offense and he's the lead creator and they have a 125 offensive rating when he's on the court, and he's averaging, an efficient 22 and 12. And in addition to that is also crushing every analytic like he did with his hot start last year, where he was top 5 in every analytic that we have, even with some subpar defense. I think that there's a really good chance of everyone that is listed here outside of the top 10 that Tyrese Haliburton has the best case for winning MVP next season. Because look at the people around him. Kevin Durant is just way too old. He's arguably not even the best player on his team anymore. Steph Curry, maybe he gets a legacy MVP, but I think his best days are obviously behind him, even if I like the Warriors as kind of a plucky team out west. Trae Young, the Hawks won't be nearly good enough, even though I think Trae is going to have a nice bounce back year this year without DeJounte Murray. And then Anthony Davis, is any Anthony Davis, will he ever play the amount of games that is appropriate to win MVP is a real question. Will he ever be considered better than the other centers like Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic? Will he even be considered the best player on his own team because he plays with LeBron James? It's just hard for me to see in his 30s winning his first MVP despite being pretty consistently a top 10 player for the last decade. But yeah, so that's my pitch for Tyrese Haliburton on being the best bet for the long shot MVP.
I see it. You know my feelings on Tyrese Haliburton. So I will not be joining you on that corner. But I think it's a fair pitch because here's the thing with MVP. It has only ever happened one time that a team was mid to bad and a player won the MVP. And it was universally considered one of the most undeserving MVPs that was ever handed out in Russell Westbrook's triple-double year.
It did happen again with the Jokic year, but I do think that those were the first Jokic year. But that was extenuating circumstances. Yeah. Like, it was, if I remember correctly, it was a combination of Embiid was the other MVP candidate, got hurt. Or maybe am I getting this wrong? Was it the second Jokic MVP year where he won and they were the 6th seed, but he carried them because they didn't have Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. the entire season?
I think that was the second year. I think they were like
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it was like the 2 or the 3 year or something like the year that they got like wiped out in round 1, like against the Warriors or something. They were like underhanded and they just got destroyed.
I think you're right.
Yeah. But I'm going a little deeper than Tyrese Haliburton. I'm going a little further down in the column.
Okay.
Give me Devin Booker's odds.
All right. Let's see. Devin Booker also at plus 10,000 on most places, some with plus 12,000.
Yeah.
All right. Make your pitch on Devin Booker.
So, for the record, I think the Suns are bad.
Yeah. Okay. Sam, number one proponent of the Phoenix Suns on the
exactly. So I think the Suns are bad. However, if the Suns are good, I do think that the West is going to be kind of a clusterfuck behind the Thunder. I think the Thunder are going to run away with it, and then I think it's going to be kind of a mishmash. It's going to be kind of like the East was last year, where like Boston was way ahead, and then everybody was kind of like scrambling around for like the 1 or 2 seed. It's not like out of like it's not totally impossible that they win like 52, 53 games. And I think in the West, I think there's going to be like 6 or 7 teams that are right around like 50 wins, like between 2 and like 8. So I think it's possible that the Suns could get up there to the point where they have home court. And I think if Kevin Durant misses time, I think if some of these other guys miss time, and Devin Booker, now the other thing against this is that Devin Booker usually misses some time. And he'll probably...
That's also against Haliburton, to be clear. Last year was the first year he ever even would have qualified for MVP. And as we know, he pushed through injury and hurt his own stats to do it.
Yeah. So, exactly. And so, but if Booker were to play the requisite amount of games and like, let's say Kevin Durant got hurt and they still were like the 2 seed or like a top 4 seed in the West, you could see that like getting some buzz, like, there'd be narratives there. They'd be like, look, Devin Booker never left the Suns. This guy was in the finals. Like, he's constantly being overlooked. Homegrown guy, you know, like, and the other thing, because you have to remember that this is a award predominantly driven by sports writers who are fucking morons and are just more excited about, like, rather than picking the right guy, there's got to be a whole narrative of everything, you know? So we're going to get to that when I get to my actual pick. For who I would bet. But I think as far as long shot odds underneath, I think Booker like checks the most boxes. I also looked at Jalen Brown pretty hard.
There's no way Jalen Brown will ever win MVP.
I mean, that's the conclusion I came to, is that everyone's just too convinced that he's like a bad stats guy. Like, I don't think he's ever shaking that, or a good stats, good team, but like empty stats guy kind of seems to be the book.
The hardest thing to do is win an MVP when you also have another All-NBA player on your team. Yeah. Like, it's very hard to convince the media that you did it all by yourself enough. And even then, like, I know he won Finals MVP, and Steph never won one with Kevin Durant. I mean, really? I know we won one with Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, but like, they were always supplementary in the greatness of Steph when he was at his peak. With Kevin Durant, neither of them were even considered for MVP, even though they were like legitimately very, very good in the regular season still. And I think they were the 1 seed the first year. and they were the 2 seed the second year. So it's pretty much just like, especially if you're on a team like Boston. We'll get to the other MVP candidate on the Celtics in a little bit, but I just don't see a world in which that could possibly ever.
It would be if Tatum got hurt,
right? And
then he never gets hurt. Tatum never gets hurt, so
the thing holding Booker back, I think, is probably that the team just isn't going to be good enough. But maybe you get Coach Buzz in the first year. You just get that little bump from him. You get they have some improvements on that team. Like, I guess Tyus Jones will help them in the regular season. I still think that their wing play is absolutely terrible. They have a ton of shooting around him, so the spacing will be great for him. And he's improved as a passer and a scorer basically every year he's been in the NBA. I think he's even an improved defender, so it's not like his old rep where it's like he's an empty calories guy. He doesn't play defense, whatever. Like he's pretty good, a pretty good all-around player. I had him on my short list here. I had Haliburton 1, I had Booker 3, and then the guy that I had in the middle is right above Devin Booker in Donovan Mitchell. And
that's another one I looked at. Yeah. Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell's always my I guess you would consider this a few years ago it was DeMar DeRozan. Why isn't DeMar DeRozan getting any MVP buzz? The Bulls are the 1 seed, like that. Yeah. As Russillo describes it, the guys who always get why aren't they getting it? And they obviously are not MVP caliber, but they're just in that tier below the actual MVP guys. And if their team overperforms, like the Cavs at one point went 17-2 during a stretch last year, they're going to get MVP buzz. Mitchell's gotten MVP buzz the last 2 years, despite, not actually being in the top 3 or 4 when it came down to the final voting. But the Cavs should be pretty good. Like, I'm not crazy high on them, but there's a world where they're a top 3 seed. And once again, the thing that is really benefiting him is the fact that, like, he has a bunch of really good teammates, but he has no obvious second guy on that team to steal away some of the shine. Like, Garland isn't seen as an all-star like he used to be. Mobley's been up and coming for 3 years now, but hasn't quite made that leap offensively to be considered like an all-NBA talent or anything. And then Jared Allen is a very impactful player who's made an all-star team, but doesn't regularly make them. So I think Mitchell is a safe bet. If you want to go with the super long odds, it's like plus 8,000, plus 10,000. I would have a hard time seeing any of these guys win, truthfully. But if we're going like the longest shots possible, offensive first players on potentially good teams, and they don't have these stacked supporting cast, and will get a ton of credit next year.
I love what you're describing. I call this the fifth team the fifth spot on all NBA thing, which is when a guy who's not like traditionally in the first team all NBA conversation is being shoehorned into discussions of why isn't this guy an MVP? I think about Isaiah Thomas, like the 2017 year as a guy like this.
Jalen Brunson last year.
So that's exactly what I was going to say. Jalen Brunson would again be my pick for that this year.
Except his odds are way higher. Is the thing is that and now before we get into like our actual picks for MVP and who we think will win this award, the Jalen Brunson buzz we know is going to be on full throttle if the Knicks are really good.
That was going to be my pick almost. Before I saw the definition of our long shot odds, just because like. New York is going to be dying to give it to anyone. If the Knicks are a 1 seed or a 2 seed, like people seem to think they have the capability to do, I think especially if they end up trading Randall for more big help at some point in the season, and you kind of erase, him as a creator around that, then it really is just Brunson's team.
Heliocentric Brunson.
Yeah. And I think that he could definitely, he'll probably be like almost a lock for first team all NBA if he has another year like last year. But then again, that's the thing
Before we get into our actual picks though, I want to talk a little bit about my longest of long shots here.
Is it, I'd like to point out Derek White has the same MVP odds as Jimmy Butler. I've won.
Equally good player. I mean, if you do a ring check, technically, I mean,
better.
It's undeniable that
Jimmy's behind all these guys who have rings. Fred VanVleet, OG, Derek White.
Yeah, OG, an instrumental part of that Raptors championship team. Didn't play the entire playoffs, but still got a ring. So, so my longest of long shots here. I have two guys, and I literally had them under the "let's get weird" category because my real three are Haliburton, Mitchell, and Booker. My two weird ones, it's never going to happen ever. But if it's plus 50,000 odds on Şengün and Paolo Banchero, let's get weird.
Okay.
I'm not saying either of them are actual MVP level good, and this would never happen in a million years. Could they get MVP votes if their teams overperform next year and they have like another leap on top of what they've already done? I think there's a world where that can happen. I don't even think you'll get a cash out because I don't think it will ever actually reach that point like it could with these other guys. But those two are the guys that if we want to go literally the longest shot possible, those are the two in this lower tier. Like they have worse odds than, if I remember correctly, I believe I scrolled past Kobe White and Tyler Hero, who have plus 25,000 odds on one book. But these guys have plus 50,000. There's a world where OG Anunoby and Fred VanVleet and Derek White, they're never winning MVPs. There's a world where Şengün and Paolo in, if the first top 5 guys all die, there's a world.
That's true. I'd like to just say, if you're picking someone who's plus 50,000, I would also like to pick someone who's plus 50,000, and I will select Marcus Smart.
Is he on here?
Yes, he's down on plus 50,000. He's a little bit lower. Yeah, he's underneath. A little lower, below Scoot.
This is unbelievable. Anyone who's listening, I've been scrolling for legitimately like a minute.
There it is. In between Caruso and Jordan Clarkson. Plus 50,000. Let's go.
You're absolutely perverted. All right. So let's move back up to the top 10. Marcus Smart mention. Fill that out on your ball bingo card. All right. So gotta get rid of the sports books. No free clout. So who do we think actually wins MVP? That I want to hear your actual MVP pick because I have a list of names that we can discuss. Brunson's on the list.
Probably Shea.
So he's your number one guy.
Especially at the odds that he's at. I just think it's going to be Shea.
He's third in odds behind Jokic and Luka right now.
They're going to be the number one seed with a bullet. He's going to be the best player on that team, pretty clearly. They love picking a new guy. Everyone's sick of voting for Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis. He was kind of the fourth guy in that tier who kind of belonged there. I just think it's kind of that's definitely the safest pick. I think it's totally possible. I think Giannis could have a bounce back year pretty easily. I think Jokic is usually pretty strong. I actually don't like Luka as the number 2 overall. He's going to be too heavy. He might win you some playoff series, and actually be a good player. But regular season MVP odds, I don't see Luka
His stats were pretty nuts the last 3 months of the season last year.
But it's never the whole season. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing.
They were pretty nuts for the whole season last year. I mean, I think that coming off the finals appearance, there's not a bigger narrative boost you'll get, even though everyone kind of came out of that finals hating Luka. It was actually bad for his rep to make the finals.
Sports writers will never give it to a guy who comes into the season out of shape. It's not going to happen. That's
Did
a
Jokic
boomer.
win his first one when he did? No, I guess that was. I think the year.
But he's
before he came
naturally he is naturally has that shape. Luka looks like somebody is flipping the Oblivion character creation sliders on him in season. He looks totally different. Week to week in the season. Jokic always looks the same.
Yeah, I would say Luka is a late adapter to the sugary drinks, whereas Jokic was born into the sugary drinks. We've seen photos of him since he was 12 years old, drinking a 2-liter of Mountain Dew. I mean, it's part of his blood at this point.
Who was it who took his beer away after the conference final? That was awesome, that video.
Oh, that was Michael Finley, but apparently I think someone realized that actually wasn't a beer. I think it was actually a sparkling water.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But still, Luka's not beating the allegations for sure. It's amazing that like Luka doesn't give a fuck. I think there was a quote that was going around the other day that people theorized came from Spencer Dinwiddie, and it was basically all about how Luka doesn't give a fuck, and he just kind of like he doesn't in the offseason, he's not going crazy. He doesn't really play pickup like that. And when all the Mavs fans got mad at him and called out the guy for posting it, he was like, no, this was meant to be a compliment. This was meant to be like, Luka doesn't give a fuck, and he still is dominating at the level that he can dominate at and bringing his team to the NBA Finals, being the top 3 guy in MVP every year. I think that this MVP ultimately comes down to Luka versus Shea. I had both of them as my 1 and 2. The thing that I struggle with Luka is that I'm a little bit lower on the Mavericks because I think that their defense is going to kind of be bad for a little bit. I mean, we'll see who they end up starting. Does Clay come off the bench? Does Najee Marshall start over him? Do they start Quentin Grimes over him just to give themselves a little bit more two-way balance? Because I think a 1-2-3 of Luka, Kyrie, Clay is just not going to be able to survive defensively, even if the offense is going to be pretty electric. I don't really see a way in which those 3 playing with a PJ Washington, even with Derek Lively in the front court, I don't see that as like any way of being an above average defense. I think it's going to be a pretty bad defense. It's really going to have to be carried by offense. But Luka's numbers will be off the chart. If the Mavericks are a top 4 seed again, I think they were the 4 seed last year. They might have been the 5 seed. But either way, if they're one of the top 4 or 5 seeds, Luka's name will be thrown in there. It really just comes down to like him playing the amount of games, consistently having those like dominant numbers that he usually has, and the Mavs being better. But I feel better about the Thunder. Like, I just think that the Thunder are very obviously going to be at least the 1. I think they'll probably be the 1 seed, if not the 2 seed. And then the narrative is easy. It's like he's going to average an efficient 30 points a game. He'll bring you good team defense. He's very much obviously their best player, despite having a lot of other young talent and good role players around him now. And they could win 65 games. Like, if they win over 60 games, Shea's basically a shoo-in for MVP for me. And I actually think the Jokic, Giannis, Embiid thing, I think it's done. It's been 6 years of this where it's one of those 3 guys. The last 4 years, it's basically come down to Jokic or Embiid every year until Embiid got hurt this last year. I think it's pretty much over. I don't really know if like I don't know what they would have to do in order to win MVP. Like, I think the Bucks would have to be the 1 seed in the East, or the Sixers would have to be the 1 seed in the East. Both of those guys would obviously have to play a ton of games. And then the Nuggets are still going to be probably a top 4 or 5 team in the West. But I just don't know why, after last year, winning the championship the year before, why they're going to be super motivated to be a top 2 seed when that doesn't really matter if, you're busting your ass in a way that they talked about how exhausted they were last year by the end of it, coming off the championship and then playing all the way through. I don't think they're going to want to burn themselves out. And like, having Jokic is going to make you a good team, if not a great team. But I have a hard time seeing Jokic, Giannis, or Embiid winning MVP next year.
Now, Tim, I want to ask you something. Did Nikola Jokic? There's a little guy plays in Denver. His name is Nikola Jokic. Did he get incapacitated? Like, why are we only talking about SGA and Luka Doncic? Because let me read you some of Luka Doncic's, or let me read you some of Nikola Jokic's numbers right now. Okay, he's still number 1 with a bulletin board. Like there's gonna be a Zach rant, of like course, that, and the nerds are gonna fucking fall in line. Understanding the MVP, you have to understand this is it almost doesn't matter what performance it is. It's more about psychology and like signaling to sports writers that that is an enormous part of this, which is why I'm picking SGA, because I think that there are sports writers who think they are like very clever for seeing the Thunder.
SGA getting the Hillary Clinton, it's his time MVP.
Yes.
It's time for someone new. And by someone new, I mean someone old.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. Like maybe Luka Doncic trumps it. The silent majority of soda drinkers rises up to crown Luka. But I don't. I think SGA is kind of like number one with a bullet. I think there's going to be a lot of hemming and hawing about how Jokic is doing great with an undersized, like a team that's dog shit, and like Jokic having this Nuggets team in the 4th seed is actually so impressive. Like you look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and how Caruso and Hartenstein have fit in since they've come over there, and J-Dub's playing like
Chet's a DPOY candidate, blah blah.
Right.
Like there's definitely his team's too good case around Shai that could make it hard for him to stand above the rest of the pack.
He's still in the cool zone though.
Yeah, Jokic is. I mean, the Thunder were better last year than the Nuggets in the regular season. They just beat them out for the 1 seed at the end of the year, and Jokic still won MVP. But also, Jokic was coming off a title.
Yeah.
Shai wasn't really established in the MVP race until last year. I think he was the runner-up last year, and he wasn't really his name wasn't even considered for MVP before last season. Like SGA and Brunson were the two that made the leap into that conversation last year. I think that matters. Like I think you have to kind of lose once or twice in order to make which is why those other guys I named at the 50,000 to 1 odds really have no chance. You have to have one season where you finish like top 5 in MVP before you win an MVP, basically.
Yeah.
It's very rare that someone makes the full leap to MVP from outside of the race. So I think that Shai is obviously the best value. I have a really hard time seeing Jokic win it for the 4th time in 5 years. And
there are going to be nerds who are banging for it, though. Like the straight stat guys are going to be banging that, which is kind of ironic because Embiid has actually kind of been a stats darling a little bit, like very quietly, like
his advanced stats was the first time that he was ever better than Jokic in the advanced stats last year.
What I'm saying is he's actually kind of snuck by Jokic in some of these, but nerds are never going to cape for Embiid because all the sports writers are mad at him for daring to question them. Joel's never winning another one, no matter how well he plays.
Well, Joel also,
won't win enough games.
Well, no, one probably won't care enough this year. I would imagine. I think that they'll probably, and then more importantly, he's meeting with the royal family. I don't know if you saw that today, but him, Masai, and Prince William are building a team. This is not a bit.
What?
Someone find the tweet.
The British royal family?
Someone find the tweet.
Wait.
Yeah, I'm dead serious. He met with the UN to talk about basketball in Africa today.
Why is Prince William involved in that?
Colonialism. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait, no, dude. Like, you don't bring Darth Vader to the rebel meeting. Like, what are you doing?
There you go.
Yeah, there.
Look at the chat. There we go. Chris Haynes, I'm told Sixers star is in New York for the United Nations General Assembly week. Yeah, Joel, we gotta get you better PR, bud. Let's distance ourselves.
Prince William, distance yourself from France. Like, well,
he did.
There's got to be a Patrice Lumumba prize that you can do instead.
He owned Macron on the phone. I don't know if you heard that one. So at least he
oh no, good.
Yeah, he talked about how because of the relations between France and Cameroon, he basically used the French basketball program to get citizenship, and then was like, "Fuck you, I'm not playing for you because our relations are bad." So woke there.
Let's
broke here. Let's not realign ourselves with the royal family.
You do not have to hand it to the English. Correct? Destroying the French, always funny.
Yes.
You do not have to hand it to the English. Or the Americans. Like, we're all bad.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But you live here, I get it. Like you actually have a connection to America.
Yeah.
Also, so I had SGA as my number 1, Luka as my number 2. Brunson as my number 3, although with the Mitchell Robinson news, I'm kind of starting to. I was very high on the Knicks. Like really? I was projecting out stuff.
I saw this coming.
Of course I did. Of course I knew Mitchell Robinson was going to get hurt. I didn't know he was going to be out until December or January though. like that's the thing is
he does that every year. He's like Robert Williams. They're like identical.
He played 36 games last year. But the years before, he had played in like the 50s and 60s. I figured there was going to be at least 2 weeks of playing basketball before we learned that Mitchell Robinson was out until December or January. And at that point, you're closer to the time where you can, like, the Precious Achiuwa contract becomes tradable later, and you can make a move to make that upgrade. Because they signed Precious Achiuwa to that KJ Martin balloon style deal where they can make another move and they can trade him to get someone else in the door that can help with their center rotation. But then again, you're removing a center from your rotation if you're trading Precious Achiuwa. But long story short here, like, I thought they would be in better shape. They would have a little bit of time to kind of figure this thing out. But now they're going into the season with a center rotation of Precious Achiuwa and Jericho Sims, and they're going to play small a lot. And giving Tibbs that with OG Anunoby, who always gets injured no matter what his minutes load is. Now you're going to raise that up. I think pretty much everyone on this team gets injured at some point except for Mikal Bridges. And it's hard for me to see, with the talent across the league, Brunson being able to drag this team, because I think their defense is going to be not good. I think their defense is going to be like underwhelming next year. And I think if their defense is underwhelming, he's really going to have to carry their offense. And I know that Bridges will help with the spacing, but Hartenstein was good for their offense last year. And Mitchell Robinson, at least creates extra possessions with his offensive boards. I'm definitely concerned that he's not going to be able to be one of the top 2-3 seeds. In the East, I feel like you've got to be a top 2 seed in order to be an MVP candidate, because it's the weaker conference. Yeah. You got to stack up wins during the regular season. So I'm going to bump Brunson down just because I don't believe in the Knicks quite as much as I did, even though I think his numbers and his analytics are going to be off the charts next year. So I'll bump him down. So I'll have Tatum 3 then. I'll have Brunson 4, and I'll have Anthony Edwards 5 as my actual MVP for next year, I think. Like, for chances of winning.
Okay. I would go Shea, Giannis, Jokic, Tatum, and then I think Brunson after that. I'm pretty out on Doncic's odds. I think the Mavs are going to take a step back next year, and I think he's going to be big. I think he's going to be first team all. He'll probably make first team all NBA, but I don't think he's got much of a chance to win MVP.
Don't sleep on the Anthony Edwards cool factor, though.
Shea is still in the cool zone though too, and is more tangible. You know what I'm saying? Like Shea already kind of has that corner, like of like a cool young guard.
That's true. But Ant also has a probably an even higher approval rating, I would say.
For sure, definitely.
Is bound to continue to get even better. I think the Wolves are still going to be a really good regular season team next year, and I think that he's going to be, the league is going to push him. Like, the league is going to push Anthony Edwards as the next face of the league because of these moments he has, because when he is in control of a game, he looks like one of the best players of all time. He's still incredibly productive for his age. He meets the eye test, he meets the analytics, he meets the cool factor, and he's on a good team. So, like, good. I have him 5. I could see him finishing top 3 or 4 for MVP, and then the following year being a legit candidate for this award. Like, I think that's kind of where I'm at for him for this upcoming season.
Not to go back to the Knicks quickly, but I have something I want to get off my chest here about the Knicks. DeAndre Ayton for Julius Randle.
That's interesting. I don't think that they would put that much into this. I think that the Knicks view the center position as like a necessary evil type thing. I know that sounds weird, but like when you have Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, these guys that are functionally like can do big things and create like you could put OG on other centers sometimes. Like he guards Joel pretty well. There aren't many centers that he's going to be able to just like be a completely dead against. And then Josh Hart, obviously, from a rebounding perspective, I would have a hard time seeing Ayton and Thibs getting along.
Yeah, that's what Brian just put in the chat. Like that is, but I think it's like an unstoppable because Ayton needs to have like psycho vets and like leadership infrastructure around
True.
him. Like he can't be on a team like the Blazers. Like he did his best work under the fascism of Chris Paul.
True.
Like,
Maybe he needs a Tibbs fascist style leader.
Yeah, and I think that New York is fun enough that he would put up with it. You know what I'm saying? Like I think Ayton is a guy who likes to enjoy himself, and there's plenty of things to enjoy about New York when you're a millionaire NBA player who's 7 feet tall. So like, I don't know. I just watch this space. I would be sniffing around Ayton if I were the Knicks. I think that's an interesting fit because he's going to be cheap, and the Blazers will be willing to part with him for. They've got Klingon and hypothetically Robert Williams. We'll
don't sleep on Duop Reef.
Yeah,
my guy, one of the most underrated players in the NBA.
Yeah.
I just want to throw out here. I just kind of an aside to that analogy. We talk about Chris Paul being the fascist leader that puts in order. I was reading about fascist Spain and Franco the other day, and I was like, this is literally Chris Paul. I was like, neutral, fascist, but neutral during World War II, was feeding information to the Nazis about what the Americans of the UK were going to. Chris Paul, like hating refs, but also complaining to the refs at the same time. Like being a cop, but also hating cops. Like that is Chris Paul to a T.
No, you've nailed it. That's exactly what Chris Paul is. Yeah, he's not necessarily like, he's not Mussolini.
Hitler,
he's not a Nazi and that. No, like Franco, good old like right wing. Franco.
The economy's doing well. Spain ever since Franco, it's been pretty good outside of the consistent civil war they're trying to go into.
But outside of that,
Other than that, it's been pretty good. He put them in a good place despite being a horrible person that did horrible things for years.
Chris Paul going to Iberia to settle things once and for all. Oh God.
All right, so we're done with MVP. Let's move on to our next category.
Get that out of here.
Which is, I think we both think Shea's going to win. Like Shea winning MVP for next year feels like I would say the best potential here for
the sports writers. Like just they're so hard for that. Like
exactly.
Throbbing erection to get vote for Shea. So
exactly. Yeah. So we're going to go, hold on. I got to pull up the NBA awards here. I thought I had it all up, but there we go. So we have, let's go next. Let's go defensive player of the year.
Okay.
For the next one.
I was surprised by this. Like at the top.
So I was kind of surprised by who was just outside the top 10 because I have, so let's just read the top 10. Victor Wembanyama, Rudy Gobert, Bam Adebayo, Evan Mobley, Chet Holmgren, Jaren Jackson Jr., Anthony Davis, Giannis, and OG Anunoby. Those are the top 10. Now, all of these guys have one thing in common. They're all front court players. Yes. All fours or fives. And historically speaking, outside of that Marcus Smart year, that's who wins the award.
And everyone hasn't stopped complaining and bitching about that ever since. So that's not happening again for like 15 years.
I don't know if that's the case, though, because I actually would make the argument that we could get, and this is for my long shot stuff. The next few names up, I'll read to you.
Wait, why is Gary Trent on here?
Gary Trent Jr. plus 7. Nihilist Bucks has his own sports book now.
I'm going to put out for everyone in there. Gary Trent is located in between Herb Jones and Jalen Suggs for perimeter defense.
Oh shit! This is Nathan Marzion's sports book.
Oh shoot! Yeah, we're on the No Tech Ben books. Damn.
Shrtechery is getting into sports books and MVP odds or DOP Y odds. So Gary Trent Jr. Lockdown defender Gary Trent Jr.
What the fuck?
Incredibly funny to have his odds in here. But all right. So just outside this top 10, we basically, like you said, I actually think we could see a shift back in the other direction.
Okay.
Just because I think that people are sick of giving it to Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
Despite in the regular season him still being like an elite defender and all the on-off stuff and blah, blah, blah. The argument that our friend Matt has made consistently is like, yes, Rudy Gobert is the best impact defender when it comes to like rim protection, on-off stuff, whatever. But you're comparing him to like when you're comparing him to other centers, the gap isn't as massive as people make it out to be. And you look at some of these perimeter defenders, guys like Alex Caruso, who's 11th in odds here. Guys like Herb Jones, who also have very good impact stats.
Yeah.
But they're also one of like 4 guys in the NBA that can do what they do. And that rarer type skill set might be more valued as we move forward when we're talking about DPOY. Like, I do think that there's a chance that we could move away from just giving it to the best big, who's obviously like, I know we know who is going to be it's going to be forced down our throats is Wemby this year because they're trying to do everything in their possible everything possible just to make him another face of the league. He's this amazing defensive prospect who was instantly an impact defender as a rookie, and it's not an easy thing to do at 19 years old. And I think that will probably be the most likely outcome. But if we're talking dark horses here, I like all of the guards in this range. Like, I have Alex Caruso, Herb Jones, who's more of a wing but plays at the guard position, Jalen Suggs, and then more importantly, I have Drew Holiday as like a lifetime achievement DPOI type, because I do think that people are going to look back and say, wow, Drew Holiday never won a Defensive Player of the Year, despite all these analytics always liking him, despite the fact that he's always considered like the best perimeter defender in the NBA. He also has the nice guy factor in his corner. And more importantly, like, if you ask the majority of guards in the NBA who the hardest to play against is, they usually say Drew Holiday. Like, Damian Lillard said it, Steph has said it, DeMar DeRozan. Like, he is a very well-respected player by the media, by players, by coaches. Like, I think that there's a good chance that if you want to go with one of these super long shot guys, that Drew Holiday at plus 10,000, plus 8,000 is not the worst bet in the world, because we know the Celtics will have an elite defense next year. And Porzingis is going to be a part of that this time.
So that's what I was going to say, is that, like, to like discount Caruso and Suggs a little bit more and kind of lean more towards Drew Holiday and Herb Jones, I think one of the prerequisites if you're going to be a guard or wing winning Defensive Player of the Year is you have to be like way better than the front court player who's also on your team.
Yes.
So like Caruso is going to have Chet behind him. We'll get to Chet later. Yes. We'll get to Chet later because I have some thoughts on Chet in this race. Jonathan Isaac, even though he's probably not going to play a ton of minutes, is probably going to cannibalize some of Suggs's like votes and things like that. So like Drew Holiday, old Al Horford, Porzingis isn't going to play as much. Like, they're going to have a good defense. It doesn't matter as much when he has Derek White right next to him. Like, it's the front court guys that really cannibalize that. And Herb Jones, they like literally don't have a center. So if they have a good defense, I was going to say,
if they have a good defense, Herb Jones might win that all by himself, put the team on his back type Defensive Player of the Year. Because I know Zion was improved as a defender last year. He's not, compare him to other fours defensively, he's not seen as like a positive defender. Brandon Ingram certainly is, and DeJounte Murray is way overrated for his level of defender. They're going to be playing CJ McCollum. They're going to be playing, like you said, no centers. Daniel Tice is going to be the starter for them. Like Herb has carried the defense by himself potential for this. And at what, plus 6,000 odds, plus 7,000 odds, that's a really good bet to make.
I just my problem with Herb is I just don't think they're going to be good enough. Like, they would need to have a top 10. Like, it'll be very clear that it's because of Herb Jones, but they would need to have a top 10 defense for him to stand a chance. And I can't see the Pelicans getting there.
That's why I think that the Suggs, Caruso, and Drew are probably, because like you said, you still have to be one of the best teams in the NBA. You can't be the 7 seed and win Defensive Player of the Year, even if your defense is top 3. Like, it doesn't happen that way. Like, I think that
what's happened to Bam, honestly, like a bunch of these years, but like he's kind of had the impact stats. It's just they're always shitty in the regular season. So
their offense is just never good, and he's also a part of that. I do just want to throw that out there. I'm glad you brought up Bam, because we'll talk about him in the favorites here.
Yeah.
I looked up their offensive stats with Bam on the court last year.
Yeah.
They were terrible.
He's not a good offensive player. Yeah.
Well, I think that his defensive rep finally, I think the last 2 years, he's finally caught up with his defensive rep. I think that he can do everything that people I've always thought he got a little bit overrated defensively because he was really good in the playoffs and in the regular season wasn't quite as effective. But last year, like, he was better in drop coverage. He could run pretty much any scheme. Defensively, he allows you to run that zone, and that is just really hard to score against. And Spo cooks up some devil magic, and they always have an elite defense, and he's a big part of that. Offensively, though, oh my God, I was blown away by how bad some of the stats were when I looked at them. Like,
part of that is that team has no offensive talent whatsoever.
That's not, though. That's the thing. All of the lineups without Bam were fine. That's my big thing, is that I have this here. It was basically with Bam on the court last year and no Jimmy Butler, which was a large chunk of the season. They had a 109 offensive rating, which is basically Detroit Pistons level bad. Like, they were a bottom 3 offense in the NBA with Bam on the court in almost 1,300 minutes without Jimmy Butler. With both Jimmy Butler and Bam on the court, they were a 116, which is just above average, league average offense. But without Bam on the court and with just Jimmy on the court, they had almost a 120 offensive rating, which is a top 5 offense in the NBA. And then with no Jimmy Butler, no Bam Adebayo, and just Tyler Hero, they had a 119.5 offensive rating, which would be like top 6 in the NBA.
But what was the net in those? Plus
6.3.
Really?
Yes.
That is genuinely shocking.
This is what, and once again, this was not a huge sample. This was 250 minutes, so not a huge sample. Yeah. But still, like, I think that because he's so good defensively and because he can look at his passing, he's an improved scorer, all that stuff. He takes a lot of really bad mid-range shots that people have pointed out. He's basically the worst efficiency jump shooter outside of Russ and Giannis in the NBA that takes a lot of jump shots. And it leads me to this, which is completely off track from the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. They should trade for Trae Young. Like,
yes,
they should be like, I don't care if it's,
I don't want them to do that, to be clear. But
they should trade for Trae Young. Like,
they should do that if they want to be good. I'm glad they're not. I'm glad they're stupid in that, because they probably are doing a heat culture like, well, Trae is not a fit with our Miami.
Fuck that. Who cares? You're not talented enough for me to care.
Jimmy Butler is going to show up in, like, I don't know, a Joker makeup this year for like media day team photos, and you're gonna like whine about Trae Young. I don't know, like making a sad face every once in a while. Like, shut up. Like,
I think that, like, if you want to get a youngish player in the door, like Trae's entering his prime, he's like 25, 26. I think he just turned 26.
Yeah.
A guy in his prime that will help you offensively and really, because Bam needs that, like, elite playmaker with him in order to be unlocked as, like, a lob threat, someone who can make plays out of the short roll, someone who is not the number one offensive option. And I don't care if this is with Jimmy, without Jimmy, whatever you want to do, whatever. If Atlanta makes it known that Trae Young is available at any point this season, they should be all over that. Because if there's one team that can cover up his defense, it's Spo, Bam, and that devil magic zone that they can break teams with. And offensively, they would be dynamite with Trae running shit. They would find shooters. They would be able to really have, like, I think, a legitimately good offensive team. And then defensively, Spo will never have you outside of the top 10. Like, I think it's a no-brainer in my mind. If Trae is available for a reasonable price at any point, they should be making moves like that. And fuck your heat culture bullshit, dude. Like, I know you've made the NBA Finals on some Mickey Mouse shit 2 years ago. Like, you're now reaching a point where you just gave Bam a max, and I do not think he's a max player, especially not a second max player.
Yeah, no.
The first max, that's fine. He makes all-star teams. He's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He helps you in the playoffs every year, sure. But if we're talking about paying someone the third max, which is like a huge part of the cap, like, you need to have someone who maximizes him, and I think it needs to be like a Trae Young level playmaker personally. But that's just my rant on that.
You forgot the other thing that would be awesome about that trade, which is Atlanta having the quirked up white boy backcourt with Tyler Hero and Bogdanovich.
So my thought on this was maybe it could be a 3-team trade where Jimmy goes to the Warriors, and then the Warriors send stuff to Atlanta, like Kuminga, and like I don't think they would trade Kuminga for Butler, but like just spitballing here, like
some stuff,
like maybe it's just that kind of deal where like if Jimmy gets sent out because Jimmy wants a new contract, they're not going to pay him. Like the Jimmy move is inevitable, whether it's this deadline or next offseason, but this is just getting out in front of that and maximizing that tradable contract while you still have it and making it so that you can be like legit. Like the league's way too talented just to kind of try to back into the play-in and then beat the 1 seed every year. Like that's just not a sustainable strategy. And Jimmy got hurt last year.
They need to do something this year. Like they're gonna like mix it up somehow. And I just don't know if Tyler Hero. I don't know. Tyler Hero. I like Tyler Hero more as a point guard. Like so, like if he could. The problem is there's just not a lot of teams who. There's so many good point guards.
I think they're stuck with him.
Yeah, I mean they're stuck with him, but like. There's worse things that could happen to Atlanta if they're getting more. You can't be trading Trae Young for Tyler Hero straight up, obviously. But like if you're getting like Jaime Jaquez and like 2 firsts or something like that, like I think that's interesting at least, like so.
Yeah, it's just something I needed to throw out there because I feel like that is just the obvious move that they should be making.
I'm of the opinion that Trae Young is like the most undervalued asset in the NBA, like right now. Like,
even with the weird years with DeJounte, like he's always gonna give you a top offense despite the flaws in his game, and that is invaluable to these teams that are kind of stuck in the middle and want to make a leap up a few spots.
I think if the Spurs weren't cowards, they would have gone and got him. But I think that you get to like preserve your job for longer because it's like it's obviously way more risky. You accelerate the timeline so much if you guys are content to do the Presti coward shit and go slowly. So
that didn't work out for Presti. So
right. So the world will show it. Let's talk to me when we have our Thunder title.
All right. Set a reminder for June right now. Hold on. Anyway, speaking of defensive players, Trae Young, defensive player of the year. My long shots are Caruso, Herb Jones, Jalen Suggs, Drew Holiday. And then my let's get weird guy is Isaiah Hartenstein, which I think you were right in that it's going to be hard for any of those Thunder guys to say, I was the reason we had an elite defense, which is going to hurt Caruso, Chet, and Hartenstein probably. But they'll have one of the best defenses in the NBA, and they'll be a really good team. He's the center. If we want to keep giving it to the big men, Hartenstein will at least have the analytics case. I don't really think he's as good as the analytics say defensively, despite being a really good defensive center. Like, I think that he's not quite that level, but he's still very, very good, especially during the regular season.
My long shot guy is just Drew Holiday because I think that the Celtics, they're going to be looking for new and innovative ways to ride the Celtics when, get ready everyone for the very annoying news cycle of like, oh my God, the Celtics without Porzingis and they're still this many games over
they'll start like
500.
20-4 and it will be, and that's, once again, that's really all you need is you just need like to start well enough and get the seeds planted early enough in the season, and then try to just sustain that level of play throughout the rest of the season. And like I said, everything is in Drew's corner for this award. Like the only thing that hurts him is that Derek White and Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown are also good defenders.
It won't matter because the Tatum and Brown thing actually works to his advantage because like people want to go out of their way to like minimize those guys. And I think that's to the benefit of guys like Drew Holiday and Derek White get an inflated like sense of this. Also, you get to kind of twist that if you give it to Drew Holiday, you get to be like, see, Marcus Smart wasn't that good. Actually, he sucks. And so that's another big benefit for the media class who's still whining about that. Still crying about the Marcus Smart. He should have been Rudy Gobert. Me.
Yeah, everyone loves Rudy Gobert.
They do. With Marcus Smart's on the table. Anyway, I will die for you, Marcus.
I do just need to point this out. Mateo's comment there about Knicks fans on the timeline are now saying that Hartenstein is low-key trash on defense. I've seen it at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, dude.
The Knicks fans are
not cope at all.
So, yeah, they're coping so hard.
Not cope at all.
Like, everyone saw this coming. Like you had one center who never plays because he always gets hurt, and you trade away the other. You let the other center go.
No. If I had known that he got surgery that was going to keep him out until almost January, then that's even different. Like, once again, yes, he does always get hurt, but you at least expect him to play the first 10 to 15 games until you get a little bit into the season and teams might be willing to make a trade.
They're just too small. I'm still flirting with the idea of taking a Knicks under if it's like 57.
It's going to be very high. I think it will probably be, although I will say Vegas is pretty, I would say that sometimes they can be immune to the media narratives. Yes. They can kind of be like, we don't really give a fuck about this. This is where we think they're going to land based on our numbers. But also they know that the public is going to be all over the Knicks.
That was going to be my point. They're like the Lakers with our public team.
Exactly. So the Cowboys.
Right.
So, all right. Who will probably win?
54. Yeah, no, that's still an over. Even with them having a disaster season, I think
54 right now.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into the over under on the next pod we do. So
yeah.
Okay. So if you want to have that on your feed, sign up for the Patreon. It will be on there later this week.
Trill has defeated me by 1 or 2 picks the last 2 years.
Yeah, I know.
Almost exclusively because of the Atlanta picks. I'm 0-2 against Trill.
I think I've won because you're against the Pacers and I'm against Atlanta, and Indiana's went over both years and the Hawks have gone under both years, if I remember correctly.
We've done very well overall, though. I think we're overall at 2/3.
We would definitely make a decent amount of money if we actually bet on it, for sure.
Actually bet on it. So listen to us and guess what I'm saying.
Just in general here, if you sign up for the Patreon, quick note, don't sign up on your iPhone. Sign up on desktop. They started taking money from you, basically. You have to pay a tax now or some shit. I don't understand it, but just never sign up on your iPhone through the app. And if you do sign up on your iPhone, use the Chrome or Safari app to do it, because it's the desktop way is the only way, and Android and any other thing is the only way to avoid those new fees. So don't sign up on your iPhone. You will be basically paying more money. So all right, just in general here, who will probably win Defensive Player of the Year? Wemby, Bam, Chet, or AD? Those were my 4.
I lean Chet, honestly.
Of those names, I don't think the Spurs I think the Spurs will have a good defense when Wemby's on the court, but when he's off the court, it's going to be bad.
I'm floored that he is he has negative odds. Wemby, for those of you listening, Wemby has negative odds versus everybody else.
Negative 250, negative 180. That's got to be if my Haliburton for MVP long shot is the best value, I think this is by far the worst value.
This is the worst value.
That's the worst value of any award I've ever seen.
The Spurs are maybe they cram it in there, but the Spurs are not gonna be good. I think people are convinced the Spurs are gonna be good. I would be floored if the Spurs were a 500 team next year, and I don't think there's any way. I think they're more like a 34-win team at highest.
Yeah,
honestly, I don't know. I think that's terrible odds. Meanwhile, Chet getting plus 1600 is going to be anchoring this defense. Maybe there's a little bit of Hartenstein
and Dorian Caruso and Kaysen. It's the Celtics thing again.
It's the Celtics thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that again, people are going to be falling over themselves to vote for Chet's a new guy. I think they're gonna have a great defense. Mm-hmm. They're going to be a great young team. I just with the odds there, I think it's the best odds, I guess is what I would say. I think that narratively, this is again a Thunder guy. The sports writers suck themselves off whenever they hear a small market team name. So we get to not vote because they have it in their mind that big market teams get to do something.
Kevin Arnovitz, he hung it up way too early. If he had just stuck around for this Thunder team, My God.
God.
Honestly, he could have gotten like legitimately famous and rich off of their success.
He needs to come back. Kevin, wherever you are, come back become the Thunder guy. Like, become the Thunder Whisperer.
But he might be preoccupied with world events right now.
Ukraine. He's really into Ukraine.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's a chef. Yeah.
But yeah, I do just want to point out here that Chet Holmgren would also be making history as the first defensive player of the year who only talks in AAVE. Breaking barriers.
Yeah. I need Chet to date Aquafina just because of the what's gonna happen. Like it's still gonna be like Mulaney doing SNL with Chapel Roan. Just the discourse levels will be incredible.
Yeah, Chapel Roan. For some reason, Chapel Roan, I said this the other day, for some reason, Chapel Roan just gives people schizophrenia. People can't have a normal conversation about her. I saw to be like my close personal friend, Chapel Roan.
Yeah. No. The thing today was she was trafficked because she went to a very normal music school in Missouri, but everyone was like, there was Epstein money in that. It's like news flash. Like there was Epstein money in a lot of things. Like there's got to be easier ways to give yourself schizophrenia than this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Epstein was the seed money that got ball started. So I can't really, can't throw shade at Look, did he do some bad things? Absolutely. But we wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. So
no, and he is dead. He's not alive, living with us. So
fuck, I forgot this is a public episode and that it's not just Patreon subscribers who will know I'm joking. There will be one guy that clips this and is like, he's stacking his resume against us. Like on September 24th at 6:01 p.m., he said that Epstein funded their podcast.
Yeah, we are not Epstein funded. We are Soros funded. It's totally different.
Exactly. We're on the right side of the left side of history, I should say.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah. So
speaking of which, we were talking about Bam Adebayo and falling off. He went broke.
What? He went woke?
Yeah, he's not a registered Republican. He's a registered Democrat now.
Yeah.
So he went woke, got broke. Yeah.
So no chance he wins defensive player.
Yeah, I know. He's too woke now.
Yeah. As we know, the right loves defense of all kinds. So I will say the state defense, self defense. Anyway, continue. Bam Adebayo, I think, is going to be Wemby will be like the massive media outlet push.
Yeah.
We're going to see if the nerds have any influence anymore.
Yeah.
Because the nerds
don't want to get him one.
Yeah. They're trying to get him one. They're trying to, but like they've wanted a lot of things they haven't gotten. Like Cade hasn't made an all-star team. Even Spo hasn't won a coach of the year that we'll get to a little bit later. Like if the nerds had their way, there would be a lot of different things.
Can I talk about the Cade? They had my ass in a pack.
Yeah,
that Cade. I was getting thrown into the chopper. I had people quote tweeting me saying he was making 5 all-star games.
Let's go.
That's a Hall of Famer, by the way.
Yeah, easy Hall of Famer.
Yeah, this is So we'll see. Cade, do you want to make me look stupid? Because a lot of people have that tweet bookmarked and are just waiting to execute it.
There are guys that have made 5 all-star teams that will not make the Hall of Fame. John Wall, Joe Johnson. I think Al Horford's borderline, and he's like a 4 or 5-time all-star.
No, Horford's definitely making the Hall of Fame.
I think he'll make it now, probably, because of the title, too.
Back-to-back college also boosts your resume.
Yeah.
I think I was going to say, that Joe Johnson's probably the line. I'm kind of surprised Joe Johnson wasn't a Hall of Famer, to be honest.
7 all-star teams, but he was never like a top 12 player. He was always like solidly outside of that all-NBA range. But it's weird to make 7 all-star teams and never make an all-NBA. Like that's the hardest needle to thread, I think.
I'm sure there are guys in the Hall of Fame who are worse than Joe Johnson.
So we'll get to the Cade conversation when we do our over-under for the next episode, but I'm starting to become a little bit of a Cade Cunningham centrist, and I know that people are going to be mad at me. I'm not backing down because of the woke media. Our friend Q has has said to me that he actually sent me your tweet. And he said, the problem is that the Cade fans, the anti-Cade people are going too far now in that they're setting the bar so low. Because you said he'll not make 2.5
2.5.
All-Star.
Yeah.
There have been pretty mid players who have made 3 All-Star games.
In 2017. The league
That's
is
true.
totally
the league is better
different. Now. The league is that's the thing. If it were 2017 and he had to do like what Bradley Beal did when Bradley Beal made the All-Star team, that's totally different. Yeah. The thing is, you line up the guys who play right now, and there's like 8 guys with a bullet ahead of Cade, to say nothing of question marks like LaMelo Ball, who like are probably better than Cade, but like can't get out of their own way. Like,
but also Cade's probably 2 or 3 years away from being like in his quote unquote prime. And there are always factors that can, change between now and then. It's more likely that guys get
where you play, and he just signed a max contract that he's not going. No one's trading for him on that contract, so he's going to be in Detroit.
It's more likely that guys from the West get traded to the East, just because that's kind of the way that it has been going, where these all-star level players are just finding it's too hard to win in the West. And they're like Jalen Brunson, Haliburton. To be fair, neither of those guys made an all-star team when they were traded, but they have been traded to the East. And I don't know. I think that there's definitely a world where Cade makes like 3 All-Star games, though.
That just made me so insane when everyone was quoting it. It's like, well, it's easy in the East, and it's like everyone is like stuck in 26. You're not like they haven't adjusted to what the East is now. Like, there's a lot of good fucking players in the East. Damian Lillard's in the East now. Jalen Brunson's in the East now. Donovan Mitchell's in the East now. Like.
But Damian Lillard's going to be not an all-star as soon as this year, though.
Great, but and then Boozer gets drafted. One of the Boozer twins get drafted, or somebody else develops.
Are they guards? I thought they were wings. I don't know.
I don't know. They might.
They're too far away for me to care.
All I'm saying is there are going to be good up and coming young players. People also act like, well, Cade's young and he's going to be getting better. Like there's not other young players also developing behind him who haven't been in the league for 3 fucking years and play on teams that have actual fucking spacing. Like that.
I don't want to go on too long about this, but here's my only argument back. Yeah. Number 1 picks always get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the All-Star game. Guys make it early as number 1 picks. Guys make it that shouldn't have made it at all. Get it. Like Ben Simmons got an extra one that he shouldn't have gotten. I think Paulo probably got it 1 year too early. I think that he probably should have been an All-Star next year, but the Magic needed a rep, and he was having a decent season and made it a year early. I think that there's a chance that the number 1 pick bias is a big part of this. And look, coaches love Cade. Coaches pick the bench every year. Like, if the coaches really love a player, I think that the bar's lower. If it's a number 1 pick, I think the bar's lower. I don't know. I do think that we might be setting the bar a little bit too low for expectations. I still stand on my statement that I've always stood on, which is that you told me he was going to be a top 5 player. So they're moving the goalpost now, where it's like he will make some all-star teams, but you told me he was going to be the American Luka. You told me he was going to be a top 5 player in the NBA, and there's no way that's the case. Even if he improves by leaps and bounds, there's a ceiling to his game because of his athleticism. Anyway, we're going to move on to the next thing. We're moving on. We'll talk about it on the Patreon episode. If people want to still hear us talk about Cade Cunningham,
is he better than De'Aaron Fox? Because De'Aaron Fox is like an average point guard in the NBA.
Not right now, no. But De'Aaron Fox was also like up and down his first few years in the NBA, I would say. But he always had an elite level of athleticism. We knew he could reach like crazy heights as a player, I would say, just because he was like probably the fastest player in the NBA, if not second fastest to Maxey now. Like it's one of those 2 guys. So, all right, let's get on to most improved. Guess who I have at the top of my list for this?
No, dude, I hate this. If you're a second-year player, you shouldn't be allowed on the ballot for this. This is so fucking obnoxious, dude.
Well, first off, for anyone who's listening, Victor Wembanyama is literally number 1 in odds.
Fucking goddamn it, dude.
Again, Victor Wembanyama is number 1 in odds, but I do just want to point out here that in general, second-year players never win. I think
Ja won. Didn't Ja win?
His 3rd year.
Okay.
He was not in his second year. I think you have to go back like 25, 30 years to get a second-year player that won. And it certainly is not going to be Victor Wembanyama just because Victor Wembanyama was good as a rookie. Like, he was a fringe All-NBA guy as a rookie, making the leap from the 16th best player in the NBA, 15th best player in the NBA, to like the 8th best player in the NBA. I don't think that leap from year 1 to year 2, if you were as good as you were as a rookie, is going to win you most improved player. Like, that's insane that he's number 1 in odds here. And once again, second-year players never win. So all of these second-year guys, they're just not going to win the award. Like, that's just not how it works at all. So the top 10 in this award are Victor Wembanyama, Evan Mobley, Jonathan Kuminga, Scotty Barnes, Josh Giddey, Cade Cunningham.
Who's the next one? Okay.
Jalen Williams, Jalen Johnson, and Emmanuel Quickley, I think, is 10, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is Podziemski, is our guy. Pods is 10.
So Pods is the last like dividing line on that.
So everyone below Pods is who we can choose from here for the long shots. So I'll read off the first few names, which is Scoot Henderson, Kobe White, Benedict Mathurin, Denny Avdia, Keontae George, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, RJ Barrett, Paolo Banchero, LaMelo, and the list goes on and on. Weirdly enough, I hate almost all of those names.
The top 10?
No, I think the top 10 is like Podziemski will never win just because, once again, second-year player. Yeah. Same reason why I wouldn't consider Scoot for this award, even though Scoot was, in my opinion, probably the worst player in the NBA last year. And if there is a second-year guy that could win it, it would be Scoot, just because Scoot going from disastrously bad to playable would be a massive improvement, but he's still not going to get that for being a second-year player. Like, you
need to be good to win most improved player. Like, even though Scoot could technically be the most improved player, just in terms of like going from one to the other. I mean, like, we'll talk about Jalen Johnson later, but I kind of like his odds too. But I have my guy for long shot that I think is a no-brainer.
Who?
I like Trey Murphy. Is way down there. He's like plus 8,000. You got to hit the C all and keep going.
Do me a favor. Tell me what Trey Murphy's stats were last year. Just look up his stats real quick. Oh, wow. Yeah, you got to go really far down here for Trey.
I think it's great odds.
Plus 6,600, plus 8,000, plus 5,000. Now, keep in mind, you do have to like make an all-star team to be, or at least be in consideration for the all-star team. Because like the last few who have won are like Lowry Markkanen, Julius Randle, Tyrese Maxey, John Morant. You have to be in consideration for the all-star team.
Okay.
I don't think that he's going to make a push for the all-star team this year, mainly because I don't think the Pelicans are going to be good enough to have 2 all-stars. If they get 2 all-stars, it would probably, like, I don't think Ingram or DeJounte are quite all-star level players anymore, but like they've made all-star teams before, and that does matter.
I think Trey Murphy without Ingram and McCollum, like if we can get an actualized Pelicans, which I think is going to happen. I think McCollum's going to be banished to the bench where he should have been for the last 3 fucking years, and Ingram is going to be gone. I think that Trey Murphy can scale up in a pretty like big way. Like,
what were his stats last year?
He had the 8 threes a game at 38%. 44
points per game is all that matters for this award.
14.8.
So yeah, he has a ways to go. Like, he could make a jump to like 20 points a game next year and be an efficient 20-point per game scorer who has pretty good defense and maybe is like a passable like wing playmaker, even though I don't really think that's part of his game at all. There's a world where it can happen, but I don't know. I just look at the mold of guys who have made the leap in this award, even though Trey Murphy might be more in the Kobe White should have won style guy, where it's like finally gets the opportunity and really, and Kobe made like a pretty massive leap last year, probably even bigger than Trey Murphy could make.
As a second-year guy, Murphy was 7th in most improved player. Second,
okay. Well, those guys never win, but he came in 7th place.
Yeah, as a second-year player.
So I think that there's a world where that's a possibility. I think that there are a few guys I would take over him just that are in his range. Like, I think Jabari probably has a better chance. Just because
I looked at a bunch of Rockets guys, honestly, like even Jalen Green, I kind of looked at for a little bit.
I have Jalen. I know he's top 10 and odd, so he doesn't count for this part. But like, if he plays similarly to the way that he played down the stretch of last season for chunks of the beginning of this year, he's going to be on the radar. Like, I mean, like almost all of these guys. I think Maxey is kind of the outlier here for all the guys that I mentioned.
Yeah,
he's the only one that wasn't a top 10 pick. They're normally going to reward top 10 picks that kind of have their breakout year. There are plenty of guys like that are in this mold. Jabari fits this. Jabari doesn't have like standout stats. Like, he could just become a slightly improved scorer and defender. The team gets better. His analytics are better across the chart. He was the 3rd pick in the draft. He's 21 years old now. Like, I think that Jalen, Jabari, those Rockets guys are definitely going to be in consideration for this award. Even Şengün, probably, to be honest with you, because Şengün probably has a chance to make the All-Star team. And as I said before, it's almost always All-Stars that win this award. That's why it makes these long shots hard, because it's hard to imagine any of these guys making the leap to All-Star for this upcoming season. I honestly, I passed on Chet Holmgren. That's someone who is a second-year player, but technically is a third-year player. So maybe they stretch the rules a little bit for him. Could certainly make the All-Star game. He has plus 6,000 odds, plus 5,000 odds, plus 4,000 odds.
Chad is saying Franz is, again, I think
Franz is a good one. Yeah, plus 6,000. He also doesn't have like crazy stats right now. He averages like an efficient, not as efficient last year because his 3-point shot was down, but was like very efficient from 2 last year, and averaged like 19 a game. If he makes the leap to like, he's averaging like 23 points a game and 5 assists instead of like 3 or 4 assists, makes the All-Star team for sure. Like, I could see Orlando definitely getting both Franz and Paulo in the All-Star game. And then he's good at like plus 6,000, plus 4,000 odds down here.
He's more of the mold of like very promising young player who like clearly is like itching to make a leap, and then he finally like
you're 3 to year 4, just like Maxey and Ja.
Right. Yeah. You make that leap and you get there. So
Franz is a very good one. Honestly, I probably should have Franz number 1 now that we consider, because the other guys I had written down here were like Nikola Jovic. I still think he'll be more of like a solid player. Andrew Nembhard, probably more of a solid player, but his the thing with Nembhard is that his stats were actually bad last year. Like, he averaged 9 points a game. Like,
I know what I saw.
But I'm saying, like, for most improved player, if he averages 16 a game and like a little bit more assists, his efficiency stays the same, and his defense is still good, then there's a world where he could be in this conversation at least. And then Denny Abdi is the other one that I had down here as a long shot, just because new team, they're going to need guys who score on that team still, even though I know that Scoot, Simons, and Sharp are thought to be like score first guys. So is Ayton. Like, I think that Denny could have an expanded role on this team and prove to be like a guy that really pops in a new setting. So those were my long shots. I think probably Franz and Jabari would be the 2 that I think have the best odds personally for former top picks. For like Franz was the 7th pick of the draft, I think. Jabari was top of his draft. Could potentially get some all-star buzz if they play really well. Franz definitely will, because I think the Magic are going to be really good. But guys who will actually win this award, Franz is probably the best odds on this whole board.
Yes.
Because because he's comparable to some of the guys that are at the top of this board that are going to be the leading odds guys. So just a little stat that I want to throw out here that Will has said to me. This is the 3rd straight year that Cade is top 7 in odds for this award. He is currently, I believe he's in 6th for odds at plus 3,000. But I think that he's going to be someone that will definitely get some votes. 100%. Like, I think that there's no chance that Cade, because I think that his numbers will be slightly better across the board. I think Detroit won't be, I think they're going to be bad still, to be clear. I don't think they're going to be 14 wins bad. I think they'll win like 22 games or something, and people will throw his name out there just because of that. And once again, year 3 to year 4, technically really year 2 to year 3 for him because he didn't play much in year 2. Number 1 pick before. We'll have the counting stats, certainly. The analytics should probably be a little bit better than they were last year. And then my actual picks for this award are, I think that Jalen Johnson or J-Dub will win this award.
Jalen Johnson was my pick as well. I think he's gonna pop up. Jalen Williams, I think, is gonna get squeezed by some of the Thunder talent for
he could.
I don't know. You kind of have to pick and choose, and I've decided that Chet for defensive player and Shea for
MVP.
The
Thunder can't win every award.
Yeah, I had to kind of pick and choose a little bit, so I'm going to go with Jalen Johnson here as my actual pick for.
So last year, Jalen Johnson averaged 16 points, 8.7 rebounds, and 3.6 assists. Yeah, I mean, if he averages 20, 10, and 5. And is still very good defensively and is clearly the second best player on that team behind Trey, and Atlanta overperforms a little bit, he could make the All-Star team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if he makes the All-Star team, he'll probably be, along with guys like Franz and Jalen Williams, probably the front runners for this. Just get this out of the way for some of the top guys. Wemby, I don't think he'll win because second-year players never win.
Yeah.
Mobley, I don't really think that this ever goes to, defensively tilted players. This award generally goes to offensively tilted players.
He would need to finally become the KG guy that everyone seemed to think he was. He would need to make massive strides offensively.
Yeah.
I just don't see that for him.
Yeah. Kuminga, no. Barnes, maybe. He's going to get more of an opportunity. I don't know if Toronto's going to be good enough, though, is my thing. I think Toronto, and same thing for Giddey, even though I think Barnes is way better than Giddey. I think that Chicago and Toronto, Chicago especially, will just be way too bad to win this award.
Giddey is loading a Michael Carter Williams season, the rookie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And pump and dump empty. And the only issue is that we know that Chicago is probably going to extend him before the season.
That's true.
For 35 million a year.
And dump on a guy that you're extending after the year. That's awesome. Let's go.
That's 100% going to happen. So that's why I would count those guys out. Although Barnes isn't out of the question, I don't think. I think if Toronto is surprisingly good and his counting stats are off the charts, he's got a chance for sure.
He made the All-Star team. Being on this list is hilarious to me.
I guess that is the thing, is how could Scotty win if he already made the All-Star team? You have to be an all-NBA player. And that's just going to be tough.
I don't think Scotty is, because he's too good.
He's already too good.
If Cade actually made the All-Star team, people are screaming at me in the mentions, he's actually a pretty solid bet if you think he's going to make the All-Star team this year.
Yeah.
I do not. But if you believe in Cade and think he's going to make the All-Star team, throw an MIP bet on him, because he will
put your money where your mouth is.
They will want him. If you think he's going to make the All-Star team, you might as well bet most improved player odds, because if he's even remotely close, all of the media narrative are going to fall over themselves to get him over the line. So
that's definitely true.
Yeah.
All right. So on to the next award. We'll go. Do we want to go sixth man of the year? Do we want to go rookie of the year?
Let's do rookie, because I thought that was one of the most interesting ones.
This one was interesting because it feels like all of the obvious ones are actually at the top of the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zach Edey and Reed Shepherd feel pretty obvious to me for guys that could come into good teams and impact winning pretty instantly. I would imagine that those two are by far the front runners for this award, because if you look historically at this award, it used to go to kind of the empty stats guys, like the Michael Carter Williams of the world.
Yep.
But then at a certain point it shifted, and it became we're going to give this to impact players who are obviously going to be stars in the future. Yep. And those two feel like the best bet for that from this class, that will be able to play well in the NBA from day one. Even guys that I liked in the draft, like Sarr, I had 4 or 5 on my board. I'm trying to distance myself from that a little bit after Summer League. Yeah. I feel like people, I said this on Twitter the other day, and we'll expand on this more in the Over-Unders podcast when we do it. But I said that I think between the Wizards, the Pistons, and the Nets for this upcoming season, there's an argument that Claxton is the best player between those 3 teams for just this season.
Yeah.
And someone had tweeted at me You don't think that Sarr? I'm like, Sarr is going to be terrible as a rookie. Like, Sarr might be the worst player in the NBA next year, and I don't think that it means that he's a flat-out bust. I think that it was always going to take time with Sarr. I think that there was never a world where he came in and was an instant impact. Defensively, I think he'll be a pretty impactful player. Offensively, he just has such a far way to go that if he wants to reach a ceiling, like, he's just not going to be a day one guy that comes in and impacts winning. So I think that him having the fourth best odds here on a rat Wizards team that's going to win less than 20 games again, I don't see a world. I think Richeche is a better bet he's third in odds. I think he's a better bet to win this award because Atlanta's at least going to be competitive. And like, there's a world where he just shoots really well and shows defensively, even though I think wings take a little bit longer to develop. I think there's a world where he is an impact player in his rookie year, at least a neutral player that shows a lot of promise and potential and was the number one pick. So they'll give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I think Sarr is just not going to be a guy that impacts winning right away. So the top 10 for this award are Zach Edey, Reed Shepherd, Zachary Richeche, Alexander Sarr, Stephen Castle, Modest Buzelis, Dalton Knecht, Bub Carrington, Donovan Clingan, and Rob Dillingham. So those are like very obviously going to be the guys that could potentially win this award. It gets a little bit tricky for the long shots for me. There's one that stands out above the rest, though, for me.
Is it Khalil Ware?
It's got to be Khalil
Ware. Yeah, that's definitely my first one. Although Terrence Shannon Jr. also fits the profile of guys who do gangbusters their rookie year. So older guy, complete.
But like,
probably will play.
They don't really win this award, though. It is a weak year, I will say that much.
Yeah.
But like, the last old rookie to win was Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah.
I mean, it really doesn't happen as much as you think. One and dones and guys that were in college for 2 years win this award way more often than the older guys. But because it is a weak year, I think I had Terrence Shannon on my list just because the fact that the field's so weak that Minnesota's going to be good, and I think he'll be a good bench player for them.
That's probably, I actually kind of like his odds more than Dillingham's, to be honest, because I think Rob's going to need time. I don't think Rob's. I like Rob. I don't think he's contributing this year. I think Terrence Shannon's going to play a lot more than him.
Plus 4,000, plus 2,500 for him. Like those are good odds for a long shot for sure. Khalil Ware is plus 3,500, plus 1,800.
It has a meaningfully different skill set from Bam.
Like, he was the best rookie. He was the best rookie in Summer League, number one.
Yeah.
Miami plays rookies. Spo is the only coach in the NBA that will guaranteed play rookies if they're good. The question with him in college, the talent was always there. The athleticism was always there. The question with him was motor and does he give a shit? I think in Miami, he's going to be fine. I think that they're going to be able to figure out a role for him.
They got Hassan Whiteside playing max ball.
If they felt comfortable enough to draft him, I think that's not going to be a problem at all. Yeah. I think that him at these odds, he will play real minutes if he's good enough, and I think he will be good enough. I think he has a chance to be, if not the best player from this class, one of the 3 best players from this class. He has two-way impact potential. I think analytics will like him as a young big on that team. And I think that his are by far the best odds of all of these guys. Yeah. A little bit further down, like I said, I had Terrence Shannon Jr., but my second guy is Kyle Filipowski at plus 1,500, plus 800, plus 10,000.
A little of the what's their coach's name?
Will Hardy.
Will Hardy, a little bit of the Will Hardy pump and dump.
I think it's more that. First off, I've been watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives recently. Maybe I'm being brain poisoned by the TikTok moms on that show. Okay. But
you're saying Kyle's girlfriend did nothing wrong, is what you're saying.
I hate you.
Public episodes, we have to put Trill. I have to really put Trill in the.
I'm sweating through the microphone. It's not what I meant at all.
Trill said no comment for the record.
Kyle Filipowski.
Yeah.
I think Hardy will play rookies. They're going to be basically tanking whether they like it or not next year. Yeah. They run a 5-out system, and they just traded Kelly Olynyk. They don't have any other 5s that can shoot.
Yeah.
He's the only 5 that can shoot on this team. He's going to play real minutes. I think that Will Hardy will figure out a role for him. And I liked him in the draft. I had him in the lottery. Like, I had him as my 14th guy. And I think that he's a guy that is going to be, he's not super young, but he's not super old. He's like 2021 as a rookie. I think that if he made it, if Will Hardy figured out a way to make Walker Kessler have like popping impact stats as a rookie, I think he can figure out a way for Kyle Filipowski too. Bigs who space the floor and can pass and can run a little offense and are like capable defensively always have better analytics than they probably should. And I think that he's going to be like, I think the analytics guys will like him. I think the nerds will like him. I think that Hardy will get the best out of him. And I think that the Jazz, we're just going to be scraping for anything for the Jazz because the Jazz really are in a weird spot with all these prospects and not many like places to go with this team. And I think that Filipowski should be up there for sure. And then my last guy that I had here, I think his odds were even lower down on this board, which is nuts to me. Yeah, it is. Jalen Tyson.
Let's go.
Also very good at Summer League, on a really good team. The only issue for me with him is I don't know if he'll play.
Yeah.
He's going to be behind Karis LeVert on the depth chart. Maybe if they trade Karis LeVert at some point, then he could play. My issue with Jalen Tyson is that I don't know if he'll be able to figure out a way. But if there's any injuries ahead of him, I loved him in the draft too. And I think that he's going to be really, really good. And he showed it at Summer League. Like I think that he absolutely balled out at Summer League. The defense still worries me a little bit, but it's Rookie of the Year. Like if he's good offensively and plays a real role on a winning team, then I think that he'll have a shot for the long shot guys.
What about 18 points a game cash money from my guy, Jacoby Walter?
Where's he at on here? I don't even see him. He's right here. Plus 10,000, plus 8,000. I mean, look, Toronto needs players. Like Toronto doesn't have many
players who can shoot specifically.
Yeah, I mean, Olynyk will space the floor for them.
But outside of him,
Grady Dick is probably going to start for them next year. But then he's probably their third best shooter. Quickly too, like those 4 are probably their best shooters. He'll play. What's that?
He's gonna be cash money. Watch this space. Jacoby Walter heads. We ride. He will not win Rookie of the Year, but I think he could make second team. I think he can make second team all rookie.
He'll definitely get the opportunities. He's going to play.
Watch the space.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Jacoby Walter's good at all, but we'll see. The actual winners of this award, though, my top 3 are Zach Edey, number 1, Reed Shepherd, number 2, Donovan Clingan, number 3. Those are the 3 guys I think are going to have a real chance to win this award. Their impact stats are going to be off the charts. They're good basketball players. That's most importantly.
Reed and Edey are going to be playing for teams that are like playoff teams and will probably end up starting for both of those teams.
Yep. Yeah. And like
maybe Reed doesn't start, but I think Reed will end the season starting for the Rockets.
He'll come off the bench for FEV to start the year. I think he'll be his backup. But I still think he'll be in the conversation at a minimum. And I think that it might just be undeniable that you can't. He might just need to play. I think that rookies that can shoot instantly always have the advantage over guys that can't shoot because it's a pathway to get on the floor. Yeah. And even if he has question marks about the defense and the size and all that stuff, I just think he's too good at basketball to be forced off of the floor. And I think Houston is going to be fun as shit. I'm really looking forward to watch them next year. They're going to be super athletic. They're going to run a lot. They're going to have a ton of skill, really young, fun team. I think they're going to be great next year. But yeah, all these guys in the middle, for me, they're either not good enough at basketball yet, they're too raw, or I don't know, maybe Lakers media could get one last one here for LeBron and get Dalton Connect Rookie of the Year, but I think he's going to be a bench shooter for them, and those guys generally don't win the award.
I would love to ride for my guy Bub Carrington, but the Wizards are going to be just a disaster.
The Wizards are going to be terrible, and he's going to be incredibly inefficient as a rookie.
Yes,
that's just
it's going to be rough. Yeah, he's going to have bad advanced stats.
He'll shoot 40% from the field, but he'll show moments where you're like, okay, this is why he's that guy. He'll have random games where he scores 30 points. He'll have random games where he has 10 assists. And he'll show potential, and that's all you give a shit about for your rookie. Not everything is determined in your rookie year. So, all right, let's get through these last few awards
there for Trill.
What's that?
We said the 5-0 were there for you.
Yeah, they're showing up. They heard me defending Kyle Filipowski's girlfriend. Said off to Mormon prison for you.
They called 911 immediately.
All right, last one. I believe we are on here. I think it's Coach of the Year, right?
I think we have 6-man.
Oh, we didn't do 6-man. Let's go 6-man first. Yeah. 6-man. This one's usually once again the favorites at the top of the board are the ones who win this award.
Yeah.
Right now it's Malik Monk, Naz Reid, Grayson Allen, Karis LeVert, Dante DiVincenzo, Jordan Clarkson, CJ McCollum, Buddy Hield, Josh Hart are the top. And Norman Powell are the top 10. So, okay, we're starting at Bobby Portis here then. So we have Bobby Portis, Malcolm Brogdon, Alex Caruso, TJ McConnell, Benedict Mathurin, Spencer Dinwiddie, Herb Jones, Andrew Nembhard, Russell Westbrook, Jaime Jaquez, Reed Shepard, Bogdan Bogdanovic. I had for my long shots on here, my 3 long shots that I had for this award were, if we go the inverse route and say we're changing this award, it's not an offensive award anymore. We're going to give it to genuinely the best bench player. Alex Caruso, if he comes off the bench for the Thunder, should be considered for this. Yeah. He's going to be on a really good team. I know we've talked about the Thunder ad nauseum here. Will probably be one of the 3 or 4 best bench players in the NBA next year. Makes a massive impact. He honestly might end up starting for them at some point. Like, I think he's just better than Dort. But there's a world where they just like Dort and they say, you're our guy. We're going to start you. And he comes off the bench. That's how he wins this award. And then the other guys I had were Bogdan, I think, is another guy that's just, if you want to go with the offensively tilted guys, he's one of the 3 or 4 best offensive bench players in the NBA. He's probably not going to start for them next year. They might go Dyson Daniels at the 2 and go defensive and then have a little bit of offensive juice off the bench. Bogdan's really good, still pretty underrated. Andrew Nembhard's going to get chances, like I said before. He'll probably come off the bench for them because they're going to start Haliburton and want some offensive punch. But TJ McConnell's also going to be okay. They might cannibalize each other a little bit.
That was what I was going to say. I was kind of looking at the TJ odds a little. I'm not going to lie.
I think those are good odds, like plus 4,000, plus 2,000. He showed out in the playoffs. Their lineups with him are always going to be pretty decent offensively, and he's kind of found a really nice spot for himself with this Pacers team that like loves to pace in space. He's super fast, pretty athletic. He cannot shoot at all, so that is the issue with him, is that he's just not a 3-point shooter, but he can shoot from inside, and he'll run the bench unit still. Like, him and Nembhard will probably tag team it a little bit, but I think TJ, and then if we went further down, probably Obi are that's the issue, is that they might just have like 3 good bench players that cannibalize each other.
Yeah, they're going to be new Knicks just dropped.
Yeah.
They're the other like no shitters team. They just don't really have bad players. Will in the comments saying Obi Toppin is a bad player, actually. Did
you watch the Celtics series? Offensively, he had some moments.
Yes, exactly.
His defense still stinks, but his offense is pretty good in the regular season, especially.
I'm inclined to agree with you when we get down to this bottom 10 for long shot odds. I think that, picking a West team that's young and up and coming and their defensive first veteran off of the bench is definitely the way you want to go for this award. So I will be picking Marcus Smart
I knew instantly when you started your little diatribe where you were going with that bullshit. Unbelievable. Yeah, let's get Marcus Smart another award.
Yes. Because here's what's going to happen. They're going to try to start him at the 3. I love Marcus Smart. That is by far his worst decision. You cannot have Marcus Smart at the 3. And they're going to figure that out very fucking quickly. Smart's going to have to come off the bench for them. And I think that I genuinely think it's going to get a little bit, if the Grizzlies are good, I think he's going to get a little bit of media juice because, like, oh, look at this vet sacrificing. He just cares about winning.
So who's the 5th starter for them? Vince Williams or Santi? Like,
yeah,
they're just going to play massive. Okay, They're going to start Vince Williams at the 3, and then okay.
I think that's how it goes.
They're so talented, but it's just so hard to figure them out. Like, they're deep, they're talented. They just have so many guys that I have a hard time kind of really putting my finger on where they're going to land in the West, despite being like they're obviously one of the most talented teams in the NBA.
They're like one of the ones I'm like very confused by what I'm going to like do.
I like them a lot, though. I think that they're going to be a really good regular season team at the end of the day. Like, I actually think that Gigi Jackson, despite like Gigi kind of owning me last year and proving that he is an NBA player, I think long term he's probably still going to be pretty decent. I think for the short term, it's probably not the worst thing in the world that he's hurt, because it helps them figure out their decisions with their rotation a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Like they can play guys that probably would have not gotten a ton of run because Gigi was in front of them. And like, I think just for right now, for 2024, that's probably a good thing for their win total.
Yeah. They can do something like trade John Conchar or
they probably will make a trade at some point. I don't know who they're going to trade. I hope it's Santi to the Sixers, but I think that they're probably going to like him too much. And I think he's going to be really good for them next year, along with a lot of these guys. Like, I think they're just a good deep team.
Yeah, they're not going to be playing a lot of shitters next year.
Yeah, they really do not have many at all. The actual guys I think who have a chance to win this award, I went Naz Reid, probably front runner, even though I think he's second in odds here, just because I think he came in second last year and he's become a bit of a fan favorite. Minnesota's going to be really good. He's going to put up stats. He's still improving. I know defensively he's kind of shaky, but they don't really care for sixth man of the year. Like, this award is almost always about offense, and I don't think that will matter. Number 2, I have Malik Monk, who won last year. Really? Number 3, I have Josh Hart or Dante DiVincenzo. And then 4, one of the Knicks guys, whoever comes off the bench for them. Like, they might.
I was saying White Dante. I think Dante's going to come off the bench eventually. And I think he's like the prototypical sixth man. Like, I think he has everything in his favor. He would be who I would bet, because that's good odds at that thing. It's a public team that's going to get a lot of juice, a lot of eyes on them. He's taking a step back. He was in a starter role. The media loves it when a guy unselfishly
for his college teammates, dude. The narrative's all there for him.
He's back. Well, he's back to being the sixth man like he was in college too.
Everyone loves a white guy who's a good teammate, you know?
Yeah.
So he has white in his name. His government name is White Dante.
White Dante, correct.
So sixth man of the year, he's probably got a good chance for winning sixth man next year. So, and then not a long shot because he's technically top 10 in odds, but CJ McCollum at plus 1,200, plus 1,400, I could definitely see that. Like, if he comes off the bench for them, he's going to score a lot of points. Yeah. He's going to have all the made sacrifice. It's all the same arguments: made sacrifices, good team guy, everyone loves him in the locker room, ruined the NBA, all of those things working. And the media hates the NBA. So that actually works in CJ McCollum's favor, the fact that he ruined the NBA with this new CBA.
Yes. Exactly.
So they might say, let's reward him for rewarding the owners and making sure that they get more money and don't have to spend as much money. So definitely a feather in CJ McCollum's cap.
Yeah, this is a patronage network. It's Tammany Hall style politics for CJ McCollum. Yeah.
Here's your reward for boosting the ruling class.
Yeah, he would have been a great corrupt union boss, selling out the guys. Yep.
Yeah. No, he's not quite Derek Fisher level of union busting.
No, he's not.
But he's certainly a level below that. All right, let's go to Coach of the Year, our last one here for the awards next year. They don't even bother like listing out all the odds. It's literally just there's probably like one book that does this. So the top 10 are Joe Mazzulla, Nick Nurse, Mark Dagnall, Jamal Mosley, Taylor Jenkins, Ime Udoka, Chris Finch, Tom Thibodeau, Willie Green, and Greg Popovich. So we're starting at Michael Malone here. So it's Mike Malone, not Michael, not Mike Malone, Michael Malone. Eric Spoelstra, who somehow has never won a Coach of the Year, as I said earlier. JJ Redick, Lakers. Mike Brown.
Wait, Mike Budenholzer, Bucks. When that happened?
They fucked that up.
Yeah.
Jason Kidd, Mike Budenholzer, who is now the Suns coach, if you forgot. Rick Carlisle, Doc Rivers, Ty Lue, Steve Kerr, Kenny Atkinson. Any names really stand out to you there?
I mean, the first one that you read off was like Eric Spoelstra if the Heat pull their thumb out of their ass. I mean, he's always just in the mix. I think Bud is probably the best odds bet for the Suns if they really are gangbusters this year. If they end up,
they have a bounce back year.
Yeah. I think he's probably like a pretty good long shot for that. I think Quinn Snyder, if the Hawks like end up like a top 5 or 6 seed.
Your
like,
boy,
my dog.
Maybe he was inspired by Brad Summer.
He called me and he said he's done ruining the Hawks.
Yeah.
He apologized to me personally for costing me our guess the odds, our over-unders title again this year. He apologized.
The only reason the Hawks were bad.
Yes, exactly, because of him. Yes.
Yeah.
So
he's dedicated to the grind now. He's
he's
motivated by Brad Summer. He's up for this upcoming season. So
absolutely.
Yeah. He was hanging out with Charlie XCX a lot, doing a lot of miscellaneous activities. Anyway.
365.
He's bumping that. Anyway.
He is bumping that. Kenny Atkinson is also like not a terrible bet at those odds.
I forgot that Kenny Atkinson came back. Cavs. I mean, Cavs are going to be pretty scrappy next year. I actually think so. My for the long shot ones, I had Spo and Bud as my 2 for sure.
Yeah,
just because I think what you said is definitely true.
Yeah,
Rick Carlisle's pretty good at plus 2,500. Like the Pacers once again could be pretty scrappy next year. They could be a top 3 or 4 seed. He's a historical name. He's won a title before. Like I don't know. Maybe it's because they overperformed last year. He won't win it for this year.
That was my thinking. I think they were too good last year.
Yeah. This is in the Tyrese Haliburton wins MVP world, probably.
Yeah.
Well, one of them will get docked, I guess, and it would probably be Rick Carlisle as opposed to the player. But and then Jason Kidd, like they made the finals last year. Like they've made the conference finals, they made the finals. I know he has Luka, so that hurts him a little bit. But if they're good in the regular season, he's going to have a legit chance to win next year. Despite me not wanting Jason Kidd to win. So actual winners for this award, I think Joe Maz and Mark Daigneault have to be the runaway favorites.
I was going to say Mark Daigneault. He didn't win last year, did he? Or did he win?
No, he didn't win, I don't think. I don't think he won. I think it was... Year? Can someone tell me who won?
Was it? For some reason, I thought it was Daigneault. If he won last year, that's less of a thing.
He did win. Okay, so if he won next year... then
it's going to be hard for that to go back.
Probably
going
to be, it never goes back. It might be Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah,
they won the title last year. This is going to be their 3rd straight year as the 1 seed. No, they were the 2 seed, but they were almost the 1 seed 2 years ago. Yeah. They'll probably be the 1 seed again. It's probably one of these top 4 guys, maybe Udoka thrown in there too.
That was the other one that popped out to me.
Udoka, I had Udoka.
A mini leap.
Yeah. I think Udoka has a good chance just because if the Rockets are like a 6 seed and he took them from the worst team in the league to 2 years later being in the top 6 in this stacked Western Conference, I think that he's got a really good chance. Yeah. Also, just a little bit of injury slop here dropped in the chat. Lawrence Frank said that Kawhi Leonard will stay out of drill work and training camp, but stress that the swelling is down on his right knee and he will focus on strength work. I just want to point out here, there was some massive cope from Clippers Twitter and Lawrence Frank himself when he got pulled from the Olympics. I'm starting to think like we might not see Kawhi.
Yeah. Is it over?
I'm starting to think
over.
I'm starting to think that like it might really be, or at least he'll be incredibly cautious about when he plays. Yeah. And I don't want it to happen, but like the Olympics sending you home, they don't just send you home if you're fine. And now that was 2 months ago when they sent him home. And this is an injury that he had at the end of last year. And he's staying out of drill work for training camp. I'm starting to think that this is at a minimum the beginning of the end for Kawhi. And it's obviously started a while ago, and he's been kind of slowly declining. It sucks to say it, but it's just the writing might be on the wall. It's just bad thing after bad thing happening with Kawhi's knees that just seem to be unfortunate for him and the Clippers in general. So it honestly might be the reason why they decided to let Paul George walk, because they kind of know it's Jover.
Yeah, it might be Jover. Yeah, just time to let old man Harden cook.
Yeah, I mean it might be the Harden show with all like youngish guys and defensive players around him.
Well,
not going to do well in this West.
You tank, you get a high draft pick, and then you come.
When did they get their draft picks back? Because they traded two more to the Sixers.
It's like
I was going to say they traded 2 more to the Sixers for Harden.
Yeah, let me let's end on that. Just really twisting the knife on our poor.
No, I don't want to end on that. I have one more thing. I have a question for you.
Okay, you go ahead while I'm looking this up.
Comeback player of the year if it existed.
Okay.
I have a list of players. I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay.
Number 1, Sixers Gershon Yabusele.
Let's go.
This was the Discord's idea, coming back from Europe, similar to Dante Exum last year.
Okay, I love it.
Number 2, Ja Morant, coming off playing 9 games and a lot of shit. I don't think the NBA would give this to him.
Yeah, comeback player of the year award.
Yeah, well, he is coming off an injury, but also is coming back from an Instagram suspension.
So fun. I'm sorry. I know it's kind of serious, but it's so funny to get suspended.
It is funny in retrospect, knowing that he's like fine now, and it's not like what. Like it is funny to be like, you were literally just flashing your gun that you legally own on Instagram.
Yeah, just get posting too bad.
Yeah,
it was literally what got you suspended. Yeah. Suspended for posting too much.
I mean. Should have been hunting. You would have been okay if you were hunting.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, pointing the gun at an animal. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm actually murdering.
Murdering, but an animal, it's totally different.
Totally
not
chill.
A human. Not a human.
LaMelo Ball was 3rd because he can never seem to stay healthy. Zach LaVine 4. Klay Thompson coming back from being kind of washed, joining a new team. And then last but not least, my guy. Benjamin Simmons.
That's the one. That's the miracle.
He's back, baby. He's ramping up. He's gonna, as Zach Lowe said, it would be so funny if he finally comes back and the Nets are like, no! We don't want you to be good now. Why are you ruined our window here?
I need that to happen. I need like all-star Ben Simmons to just be back out of nowhere. That would be so funny, dude. Oh, my God.
Once again, we will get to this more on our over-under episode, but I kind of think that people are sleeping on the fact that the Nets don't have shot creation and they don't have offensive talent enough. They're going to be really bad, just to be clear. But they might have to make a trade so they don't accidentally win too many games next year. Like, I go through their team, and I'm like, it's not a terrible team. Like, they have talent. It's not quite good enough to win amount of games to get to like the play in the current NBA.
Okay, I want to be clear. I looked it up. The Clippers literally do not have a draft pick, a single draft pick. They're all encumbered. Like I guess they get some swaps. They don't have a totally unencumbered draft pick until their 2031.
Oh my God!
They have no picks incoming. No picks incoming. And all of their second, like there's some weird protections and stuff, and some of them are swaps. Like all their like odd years are swaps, so they're getting something. But like,
it has never been more over. At
terrible,
least the Suns can trade Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. They can't even trade Kawhi Leonard and Harden. They would be selling at like the lowest point of his value.
Yeah, it's turbo over.
It's never been more over than it has been.
Sean Marks, they're sending you the bat signal. Do you have one more?
I was going to say, even Sean Marks had the swap picks. They have the swap picks, right?
They have swap picks, yeah. So Sean Marks is...
Yeah.
Sean Marks has been here before.
Sean Marks is plotting.
It's the Nets thing all over again. Like, it's very similar.
Big market. Went all in on old guys.
All their big players don't have trade value. Like, it really is the Nets thing again.
They at least had way more success than the Nets did. They made a conference finals.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And like when Kawhi and PG were healthy, they were fucking awesome. They just weren't healthy that often. Like they had a stretch where they were the best team in the NBA this year.
They killed the Celtics, who won the title very handily. They destroyed them.
Yeah.
Earlier in the year.
Like, they were the only team to do that the entire season.
Yes.
Kind of crazy that we saw the vision for like a month, and then that was it.
Gone. Yeah.
Then it's just completely
Harden's been
gone.
a part of so many teams like that.
It's like the Rockets, the Sixers, the Nets, the Clippers. It is just like it's just
these
the
teams that have just have like a turbo gear of like insane title contention, but then like they usually like lose in the second round.
Yeah, he is eternally cursed. It is absolutely wild, but. We did it.
Well, look at this.
We got this
7 minutes to spare.
Let's go. We got it in an episode under 2 hours.
Do we want to listen to the new? Do we want to listen to the new Cardi mixtape?
Let's go. Let's throw it on.
Just get to like the last like 3-4 minutes. Yeah.
Well, he did drop one song, and he just sounds like Future on it.
Sounds good. I'm in.
All
Trump winning.
Go stream it. Yeah. Trump winning. Cardi dropping. Back to back. NBA season's back. Life couldn't be better.
Well, no, didn't we say that Cardi dropping an album means Trump winning? So
yeah, that's exactly what that means. So
yeah,
so it's gonna be a great season.
Yeah,
YKB is rising.
Yeah, we're doing good. I've been getting a lot of texts from Olivia Nezzi. I should probably get back to her. But we'll finish that up later. I keep forgetting this is a public episode.
Sign up for the Patreon. We'll be back later this week with our over-unders, predicting both Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo and what they're going to say, and then also giving our own over-unders for this upcoming NBA season. So, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Peace.